when all matter and energy will be in a state and a location that it would have been in had it not been for the sound. So the sound, by my definition, exists. It exists because it has consequence forever. Now, this conundrum was never very interesting on its face. It was just a way of politely tweaking a question that some people think is interesting and a lot of people just deny the validity of. It's a little too close. Do we exist in a sense that is more meaningful than the existence of the sound in a forest? We fancy ourselves a lot to be alive. Do we exist as living organisms? Well, we are surely conglomerates of matter and energy that behave in ways that define us, but so is the sound. By virtue of being alive, do we have consequences that will have consequences forever? That is the question. And I think the criterion is the same as for the sound. And in our case, to exist more meaningfully, I think that three requirements are, first, some effect of our lives must continue to radiate forever. That's the same criterion as for the sound. That is to say that if the universe becomes a place in which there is no configuration of matter or energy that provides evidence that we were once alive, then there will be no evidence that we existed as living organisms, and so we do not exist as more than the sound in the forest even now. Second, and this is a practical matter of information storage, some effect of our lives must continue to affect living organisms. If all life is extinguished forever, there will eventually come a time when no configuration of matter or energy will provide evidence that there was once life, so requirement one would no longer be fulfilled. That is, inanimate configurations that give evidence of life will dissipate that evidence in the absence of life, whether the universe is closed, open, steady state, at critical mass, tunneling, fractal, inflationary, any currently tenable cosmological scenario. Now, what I mean here is that for the sound to exist, there must be some form of matter existing forever. For life to exist, by the same sense, there must be some form of living matter to exist forever as a consequence, if there's to be evidence, if there is to be consequence forever. And as far as being meaningfully existent, the third requirement is that the lives that our lives continue to affect must be our descendants. That is, if our lives or the lives of our descendants affect only life forms from elsewhere in space who themselves have descendants forever, then we do exist as more than a sound in the forest. We exist as living organisms, but not more meaningfully than the fish I ate at last night's banquet. Now, I don't think that we should think that there is life anywhere else in the universe until we have evidence to that effect. And I'm not aware of evidence to that effect. But just to make this point, suppose there's some other life form and a time comes in its history when the only way it can continue is to eat our descendants, all of them. And then it goes on to have descendants forever. Well, then we will have lived. We will have affected. We will have consequence forever. But that won't be very meaningful to me. It certainly would not be a foundation for morality. You, I hope it would be. That's fine. Me, it would not cause me to behave myself so that my descendants don't self-destruct and all kill each other so they can stay alive to be eaten by these other guys. It just doesn't do it for me. Well, to put this in a positive frame, if the universe remains the home of our living descendants forever, then we meaningfully exist. What are the prospects of that? Well, there have been three phases in the answer to that question. And the first phase had the answer is absolutely yes. I call that the religious phase, in which everybody's cosmology was based on a religion, usually involving a god or gods. And the far future of the universe was in their hands, and all was well. The second phase was the no phase. That was the beginning of the empirical phase, a little over 100 years ago. All the labors of the ages, all the devotion, all the inspiration, all the noonday brightness of human genius are destined to extinction in the vast death of the solar system. And the whole temple of man's achievement must inevitably be buried beneath the debris of a universe in ruins. All these things, if not quite beyond dispute, are yet so nearly certain that no philosophy which rejects them can stand. Well, damn. Fortunately, we're now in, this is the cosmic heat death scenario. And we've entered a third phase. Sort of got started early in this century, but it didn't get serious until 1979, when Freeman Dyson published the following paper, Time Without End, Physics and Biology in an Open Universe. This paper is 27 pages of formulas, interspersed with the occasional word description of the conclusion. I was very grateful for those. The general conclusion of the analysis, we're cutting straight to the chase here, is that there are good scientific reasons for taking seriously the possibility that life and intelligence can succeed in molding this universe to their own purposes. Life and communication can continue forever, utilizing a finite store of energy. Now, I went to the trouble through Science Citation Index to collect every paper in the refereed literature that has cited this paper. I got 47 papers. Amazingly, you can't find a discouraging word in those papers. You can't find, oh, well, Dyson was wrong here, or he was wrong there, or this calculation was off. And believe me, physicists are just like anybody else. This guy's a famous fellow. If they can find something wrong, you can get points for that. Dr. Leikind read a bit of a review that appeared in Nature to you last year at this conference about Dr. Tipler's work. I'm confident in saying that that was the most vicious review that has ever been published in Nature. So these guys do go after each other. It wasn't quite vicious enough for my taste, but the point is that a lot of work has been done since this guy started this thing off. A lot of great work, and we don't have time to go over today. I'm going to cut to some quotes from this book, which Dr. Leikind recommended last year, 1994, Paul Davies, The Last 3 Minutes. It does review most of the best of the work that's been done in this field since 1979. Cosmic heat death has been one of the abiding myths of our age. Bertrand Russell and others seized upon the seemingly inevitable degeneration of the universe as predicted by the second law of thermodynamics to support a philosophy of atheism, nihilism, and despair. Today we can paint a somewhat different picture. The universe may be running down, but it is not running out. In Dyson's scenario, the beings of the far future would impact less and less on a universe coldly indifferent to their requirements. But by clever organization, they could still think an infinite number of thoughts and experience an infinite number of experiences. And in fact, things may not even be as bad as Dyson's scenario. Our descendants may themselves attempt to modify the large-scale organization of the cosmos so as to preserve their longevity. By manipulating many stars, clusters of astronomical bodies could be created and managed for the benefit of the community. And because the effects amplify and accumulate, there is no limit to the size of the systems that can be controlled in this way. As time goes on, intelligent beings can gain more and more control over a less and less resourceful universe, until all of nature is essentially technologized, and the distinction between what is natural and what is artificial disappears. We can certainly imagine our descendants, with such a vast amount of time at their disposal, developing space exploration and all manner of marvelous technologies. They will have plenty of time to leave Earth before the sun grills it to a crisp. Our descendants could colonize the galaxy in a small fraction of the time that life on Earth took to evolve into a technological society.